what do I hit up? What do I click? Is it this? Trevor, what do I click here? Well, what happened to the box over here? Okay, there it went. Okay. Never mind. I figured it out.
You got it?
Yeah, well, the one screen went off when I was doing it. So, and that was nice because you had that big boom in the background. Now I can't read my paper. It got dark in here. We'll see if anybody shows up. Shows 2 people. Nobody's talking. I'm talking though. Oh, someone said, "Good afternoon." So there we go. All right, and Trevor, can you hear me? Okay, there I go. Thumbs up. If I didn't look over. Hey, Lacey. Hope you guys are doing well in Louisiana. We're kicking it off here. 58 degrees today. Partly cloudy. Good evening. Well, it depends where you're at. So, David, it's afternoon. I guess it's afternoon. It's supper time, maybe, for some people. So, I think we're supposed to get some rain in the next... Well, we were. Well, Sunday. So, a couple days. So, there we go. Waiting for some people to load in as things kind of load up. Never seem to have a crowd. You know, like hundreds of people just waiting. You know? Let's see here. Susan, you get a new t-shirt for Christmas. I saw the shirt and I couldn't resist. I was just like, Frank got a license plate thing that says legend or the legend for his Jeep on the front of it. He said, he's the legend, I'm the mountain, Woody's the superstitions. I think Eric's the... I don't know. Anyways, this was kind of to me. Tomorrow I will be seeing Frank, and I'm going to wear this shirt and see how long it takes Frank to see it. And then he's going to get all like chewing his cigar over it and stuff. You should give me that shirt. So I thought it was just funny. It was a funny shirt. So, and it's black, so it's good. Plus, everybody, most everybody gets off at the end of the day, and you grab the same shirt most of the days of the week. After work, you change shirts, and you wear. So when you see me doing Chasing Legends and stuff, I didn't realize that I wear the same shirts over and over and over and over. So I thought, throw a new one in. New year, first live of the year, change shirts up. There we go. So see, the first Chasing Legends, the first live this year, and I've wore 2 different shirts. So that's almost a record, right? If the Monday Chasing Legends, I have a third different shirt on this year, that'll be almost a streak. So there we go. Anyhow, so really nice out today. It's been real cool. Next week we're going to drop down in the low 30s, so the weather's going to get cold out. So it will be there. And I make my rare appearance. The Fireplace Doctor, okay? Okay. Well, I don't think I've ever seen that before, so that is a rare appearance if it is it's, I don't know. And then you retracted the message. It's always odd when people retract messages. I don't understand. Anyhow, so getting into this week, a lot of things going on because we're kicking into the new year, and I talked about a couple things. Dave Piscali. Oh, okay. Strawberry Mountain Sanctuary. Amazing Wilderness. I need a Fireplace Doctor. Okay. Anyhow, so the first thing we have going on is this weekend. The 5th, 6th, and 7th of January. It'll be the Flag Foundation Rock and Mineral Show down at Mesa Community College. I'll be down there Saturday. Saturday. So will Frank. So you'll see us wandering around. You'll see me in my t-shirt. So you'll know it's me, right? The hat and the t-shirt and Frank and his cigar. But we'll be down there wandering around sometime in the afternoon. I got some business with the Dons first thing in the morning, so I'll be out at the Dons base camp doing some work down there. We're setting up for Discovery Camp, our 6 consecutive Fridays of working with and teaching kids how to brand and rope and gold pan and taking them on short hikes. So we'll be kicking off the season for that, for Discovery Camp. So that'll be kind of busy. Howdy, Bobby. The next thing we have going on will be in February. It will be the 90th anniversary since the first trek by the Dons. The first trek was held out by First Water. We'll be taking a hike. The Dons will have a hike, and it will be from the First Water parking lot to where the Dons' first site was for the first trek in 1934, and then it'll continue up to the First Water Ranch, and we will continue up past there up to Garden Valley. It's a short, easy hike. Kids can take it. Everybody can take it. There's not much to it. Take about an hour, hour and a half to get there, hour and a half to get back. It'll be the 90th anniversary. We welcome anybody who wants to come out and can get out there with us. Myself, Greg Davis. There'll be several of us. Trevor can go out and we'll be able to kind of take groups in. So we'll start. We'll have a time we set. I don't know what the time is set for that hike that day yet. And then hopefully we'll find someone that can hit, because the lower parking lot fills up pretty quick, that we can shuttle some people down to the area. But we'll have, I might start off with the first group, and then Greg will take the next group of people, and we won't do it all day, but we'll do it for that part of the morning to catch everybody. And so the Forestry Service doesn't blow a gasket that too many people went in at one time. But for the 90th anniversary, that was a hike we did last year with the Dons. This year I want to kind of get the general public out and kind of do something kind of fun and easy. We might go out there. Everyone who wants to turn around at Garden Valley can come back, and we might make a trip up through by Hackberry to loop around back down First Water Creek, kind of for a little bit of a longer hike for people for some other things. But that'll be that. So you'll be out there, and I'll see who else I can get to guest to kind of go out with us and talk and stuff. But you'll be able to kind of see some of the sights and stuff and all that. So that's the third thing this year. Second thing this year, yes. Third. Well, let's see. I'm trying to get everything in place. Then February, it's dark in here. February 10th is the Lost Dutchman Parade, which is down on the main strip on Apache Boulevard. Is it? Yeah, it's on Apache Boulevard. Anyways, that'll be on February 10th, the Dons of Arizona. We'll be out there. I'll be out there. I don't know who else. Trevor won't. Trevor will be missing that day. So, but we will be out there. Last year I wore a sombrero. This year I'll just wear my hat. Sombreros was a kind of giant for me. I might wear a Spanish-style hat, but I'll wear something different this year, because that sombrero was really uncomfortable. And then you got to watch the wind all day, because that thing's brim had to come out to here. What did you think, Trevor? It came out like this, didn't it? It was a giant sombrero. It was a pretty big sombrero. You see me in the picture. It looks like I'm a UFO. So that will be then. Then on March 15th, at Goldfield Ghost Town, up at the Mammoth Saloon, will be the Treasure Hunter of the Year Awards. Time is probably, we'll be up there around 6 o'clock or 5:30 or 6 or something for the meet and greet. 5 p.m. maybe. But anyways, that'll be the Treasure Hunter of the Year Award. That'll be the 32nd, I believe. The 32nd Treasure Hunter of the Year Award. Announcements coming of who the people will be receiving awards will be. I will catch up to all of you as I'm looking at all that. And then the last thing coming up is the 20th Annual Rendezvous. The dates are in October 25th, 26th, 27th. That'll be about 100 and... Friday night we'll gather, and that'll be about the 133rd year anniversary of Jacob Waltz's death. That's when we started the rendezvous, trying to center around the 25th when he died. So this year we will be out there, and Friday night will be the night Jacob Waltz passed away. It's a little earlier back to where we started from. We were going later because of the wanting the cooler weather. The problem this year is Halloween's one weekend, and then the other weekend is going to be a 3-day holiday. And people usually plan other things, and I wasn't sure how that would work. So the 20th annual will be out there. There's a lot going on. It's going to be different. It'll be quite different. I'm trying to work with maybe find someone like the Arizona Rangers or someone to volunteer and come out and watch the lower parking lot area for the Gold Trail, so that we don't have the bonfire guys out there screwing up and causing traffic problems and everything else. So hopefully that'll happen. So there's the 5 events. We'll be talking about them as they come, but this weekend is the Flag Foundation Gold and Mineral Show, which is at Mesa Community College. So you'll see Frank and myself around. I don't know if Woody will be down for that. I don't really know. I hadn't talked to him in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, there's generally, I run into a number of different people, so it's kind of cool. Let's see, I'm trying to catch up then. Okay, there's I'm the most overqualified fireplace guy in Arizona. I am like Don Juan. I should be a Don. I am like Don Juan. Okay, that I don't quite. Okay, Don, yeah, just means sir. Afternoon, Wayne. Afternoon, Glenn. I'm a fireplace practitioner. Okay. Can't wait until the next rendezvous. Yeah, the next rendezvous should be pretty cool. When is the next rendezvous, which I just went through? It is October 25th, 26th, and 27th. Last Dutchman Parade. I'm going as Jacob Waltz. There's a lot of people dress up and think they're Jacob Waltz. Heading into Little Rock this weekend to find my Julia Thomas. Okay. We will be there in March. That's cool. Yeah, see, March. That'll be very cool. If you actually are there for the Treasure Hunter of the Year awards, Clay will be there. Clay usually comes over and sits with us. We pick him up, but that's most of those guys. Shoes, Feldman's, all of us get there together and have a dinner. You're more than welcome to come up and sit with us. Sounds good. Boss Man Wayne, and then did I catch everything up? It's a nice shirt. The shirt is meant as purely a joke, and it's meant to get Frank kind of going. Julia Thomas was so hot the Dutchman spent $20,000 on a soda fountain for her. Okay, and I'll probably be hanging with Sal per usual, when everybody leaves the campfire. Well, there you go. Everybody likes to hang with Sal. So I think that's it. I kind of ran things. The Garden Valley thing will be very cool. February 10th at First Water, and we'll talk more about that and kind of get into it and stuff. So that will be neat. As you can tell, I'm always busy. There's always things to do. It's just that. And then January 29th is going to be the debut of History's Greatest Mysteries with Lawrence Fishburne. I partook in, actually had a lot to do with the Lost Dutchman segment. We'll see how it turns out. I didn't edit it, so we won't know what they used. But I helped write a lot, and a lot of pre-production and production stuff involved. And we will do a Chasing Legends that is about my trip doing it. Can't show you anything when I was filming. I got some couple pictures we'll throw in. But to kind of build it up, a very cool show. I have to thank all of them and everybody that got me involved. And it was a really nice trip. A fun trip. So we'll be covering that. So that should be coming, the first one. I don't know. It's about some other mine or lost mine or something. But it will follow, and we will announce that. We'll have a Chasing Legends preceding it and try to make sure everybody knows when that's coming out, just for the information in the show. But it appeared to be a really, really well put together show, so we'll see how it goes. It was a great group to work with on that program in particular. So we've done that. I didn't realize Frank was so much taller than me. He isn't that much taller, is he? Frank that much taller than me? Not much. No, maybe he's standing on a fucking anthill. But yeah, I don't think Frank's much taller. Woody's taller than all of us. Woody's like 6'2", 6'3", 6'2" probably. What do you think, Woody? Woody's significantly taller than everybody. So Frank likes to wear his boots with his heels, and he likes to kind of stand up real straight and then find a little higher ground and make himself seem a lot taller than he really is. But that's okay. He can't help himself. So I picked up this book. I showed everybody, Thunder God's Gold, and I hadn't gone through it. Generally, once you look at a book, you look at it, you leaf through it to see the pages, to make sure everything's in good condition. I definitely like these when there's some inscription in them, or someone's, made notes in the books, because it's always interesting. Maybe I might know who it came from, but then it's always interesting to think of other people's thoughts. This particular book was very, very interesting. because I went in, and this is, I believe, I'm looking at it, I think it's a 1937 Lost Gold trek for the Dons of Arizona. So this is the ticket that you paid for, and with the information for the events from 1937, which would have been their third annual event. It's very neat. This is number 56. It was unused ticket, or the person didn't sign or do anything to it, but it was turned back in. So number 56 ticket was in there. So I was like, wow, that was really cool. And then I went a bunch more pages, and there was another place marked. And this one was even cooler, because this one is from February 11th, 1934. I don't know if everybody's totally fully aware of this, but February 11th, 1934 was the first Don's Trek. So I actually found a ticket from the very first trek in this book, which I didn't even realize or think about when we set the date and everything for the Garden Valley. I did realize it was about 90 years, but I didn't realize how close the dates were. So we will be out there, like I said, February 10th, so just the day before. So it'll be 89 years and 364 days since they did that first trek. So that was actually pretty cool, finding these. Because, yeah, this is the first and third treks, right? No, fourth, right? Yeah, first and fourth treks. So number 1 and 4. So I started my collection. But they're all in really excellent condition. So that was kind of very cool. This one shows some wear and tear. It has the color and the foil for the gold on it. But the other one's really in good condition. So they don't have, it's not number stamps. So I don't know. They might have just made a bunch of these and whatever, and they weren't used. But very, very cool things. Trevor's very impressed, aren't you, Trevor? Mm-hmm. Yes. You never know what you'll find in a book. That's what I go through, and sometimes I'll buy the book because of some of the things that are in it. The notes and different other things that people have put in it. That's how Hank De Andrea found that map. He bought a book. I don't remember what the book was. I'll have to ask Shoes about what book it was, but he found in the binding in the back of the book, there was something there, and it had been sealed up in there, and he pulled it out, and it was that map that then Hank, I know it was Basil, trying to remember who else. There was 3 or 4 of them from Chicago that came out, were using that map, and then they got a hold of Barry Storm, and then Ed Hudek worked with them, and they were up in the mountains, and all those guys were around. I don't know if Hank made it to many rendezvous or anything. The president of the Don's Club knows the location of the Lost Dutchman mine. Does he? I don't think Dean does. I don't think he does. But anyways, Frank gets into your personal bubble. Had to pre-warn David and Lacey. Yeah, Frank likes to get in close, man. There we go. I enjoyed the rope ledge story and digging up the poop stories. Yeah, that's what we should have called it. Would have got more hits, a lot more views if I called it digging up the poop. But then wouldn't have been a surprise. We didn't have any issues in November. Frank's good. He's actually chilled. I don't think he's as bad as he used to be. He used to be really bad. I mean, it was like 6 inches all the time. It was like you're moving back because, man, you can't. The guy's right in there. But he's better. I think it's because I've teased him so much. Hi, Smiley. It's Margarita Man. Okay. Huh? Remember blasting we heard at the last rendezvous? I figured out what it was. Well, what was it? Amazing wilderness. What was the blasting at the rendezvous? Hello, Clint. Okay. Someone blasting rocks. How are you? We're hiking. We are going hiking or what, buddy? Who is Mr. X? Mr. X. Oh, in Thunder God's Gold? I don't know. You see, this is the problem with the chat. Now I gotta wait to see if you're talking about Mr. X in Thunder God's Gold. Good, staying busy, want to go hiking. Da-da-da-da. I just got done with work. Okay, we're in that sidebar. David and I were supposed to be in. Okay, we're in that area. Anyways, so a lot of stuff's cool. Definitely that hike will be neat. See who shows up. and just doing it on that anniversary will be very cool. And like I said, the 20th anniversary, I want to do it a little different, a little kind of more broad, kind of fit towards trek. There were several hikes on the first trek. They didn't have to do the long hike at first for a number of years, but there were some shorter hikes. So what I'm doing is I'm researching and pulling those together, and we will be doing those at the next rendezvous, which one of them was the crematory cave. I'm still trying to get more information on that, but we'll probably set something up for that. So there was a cave one that they went and did too, but I don't know where the cave or ruin is. So I'm going to have to work on trying to find that. And I've been going through all the files and stuff and copying stuff off and trying to find some of the particulars. Now, a lot of the early dawn stuff was burned up in a fire, so it's missing. So there's only so much of it. The trek ran in one shape or form or another up until 42, and then during the World War II, they stopped for 43, 44, 45, and then 46 they started the trek back up. Now they actually were active. They would get like hotel ballrooms and have Indian dancers and stuff like that, but they didn't have the trek per se. And then 46 they started the trek back up. At that point they had the Dons camp and were building out the amphitheater and all that developed. So it kind of took off in a different direction. Few changes too for all of those out there. If you knew, you went up the hill, and that's where we do the gold panning. There were two buildings up on the hill. There was one to the right, which was kind of like just a long rectangular building that had an open face, a nice flat area. Sometimes people camp up there. And then to the left, going south, there was another building that kind of was odd, had little different kind of rooms almost to it, and then it had a little ledge by around it and like a patio area. Anyways, that building, part of the roof had burned out and it was kind of in shaky position. The Dons removed that building this year because it was just not repairable. It was falling apart. There was a lot of concerns about it, so it'll give us more space up there. It actually gives someone a really nice camping spot up there because it'll be a nice flat area overlooking the whole camp. So that'll be a change in the camps. We will be doing a lot of cleanup at this period for Discovery Camp. And then going into late next summer, we'll be doing some more cleanup. I'm trying to get someone out there to kind of do a lot of cleaning out of the brush and so forth. So there we go. All right. And shall I ask and list around for the music for what? Sunsets? Music for sunsets. Yeah, that wasn't... Mr. X was the guy I saw on Dutch Hunter Forum that you were on as well. But he and an army buddy found the mine and the gold. He spoke of arrows being shot at people. I don't remember what forum. Was it TreasureNet? TreasureNet is the main one. There's a Lost Dutchman forum, and then there's Desert USA. I'm in all the forums. I don't post much. I kind of pay attention to all. I'm going to look for that Spanish fortress hopefully this winter. I want to go up the cave trail and go up in there. I'm not going to take the route I did originally. I'm just going to go along the ridge line and look and see. Because someone else said they remembered it too. They had run across it, and they couldn't tell me where exactly it was. But they described it in the doorway and everything pretty damn good. So I kind of think I can find it. I'm just going to have to take a long day and then have Trevor and Tyler do a lot of running around on the ridge looking for it. And it's kind of lower, because when you come up out of it, and then you see Devil's Slide. So I know, you get to see the full on of Devil's Slide. You're not at the base when you're there, but when you come up, you come around, and then you see Devil's Slide. So I have it particularly in my head. I should be able to do it. Still planning on looking for the... Okay, we did that. Sunsets music, I started working on it. Well, the next particular one, it's not going to be a rant. There's a set of instructions for running the Pro Tools and everything, because there's a lot we do with it and a lot to do to get everything recorded and get everything tracked and then bounce and mix and get done. So I have this thing that tells me my step-by-step, so I'm connecting to the right whatever and clicking the right things to make sure we're sending it to the right places and making the right files. And that piece of paper disappeared. And it took us forever to always, each time, me and Trevor combined to remember how to go step by step through it. Trial and error, trial and error. So we had this set up. So then I went to do something and I was working on stuff and then I was ready to go. And then I went to hook everything up and I couldn't find the paper. And then I suddenly came up with all these other ideas for other things. And everything kind of got slowed down. Everything is proceeding. But it was kind of funny that you say that and then all this. The other thing is I can't turn because I'm trying to always organize. You can see the keyboard's further away. And the reason the keyboard is further away is it is after Christmas and the drums have moved out of the room, which means we have more room. Because that was kind of a pain in the butt too. I was working around. We lost a lot of room in here. It wasn't a very good space suddenly, recording wise and stuff. And especially with the drum kit, because everything I said, you could hear the drums vibrating next to me. So we got that all out of here and that, and I'm going to actually, I wanted to get some baffling in here up on the walls between the guitars, just not only to pad for the guitars, but something that I can put in here and absorb the sound a little better. But everything's proceeding. Everything will get finished up. There's a number, like I said, there's always projects. There was another project I was doing some cataloging on, and it's proceeding. I'm almost halfway done with that. So we are proceeding and getting done with everything. And I'm starting to, now that the holidays are over and I've dug things out and moved things around, I'm starting to find things again. So things are back out and sitting around and everything's hooked up. And I got my manual and I made a new version copy of my manual and I'm going to make something else. And Trevor even got me a booklet for the passwords. I think it's over here somewhere. I think it's right here. Is it right here? Yes. Trevor got me a booklet because what's my favorite thing to say, Trevor? What's the password for that? Mm-hmm. And the book is called What the Fuck Is My Password? So I'll have that to help us out. If you ever want to break into my studio and find all my passwords to get into Pro Tools and everything else, there it'll be. But that's my favorite thing. And it's just because there's so many stupid computers for everything's isolated and works for something else. So, and I'm generally, I don't know about everybody else. I don't think this shocks anyone. I just try to make a password and want everything to be the same password. Everybody else, everything's a different password. It drives me choking and drives me nuts. Al Center is my spirit animal, okay? Randomness. And you laughed at your own joke. I do that. I need one of those. Yes, I don't know where Trevor got it, but Amazon. Yeah, Amazon. And it is thick. It is thick. How many is it? Passwords? I don't even know. There's a number of it's just tons. I mean, if you have hundreds of passwords, it's an excellent book for there. I'll probably lose the book. Probably won't know where. If you saw down the line here, I guess if you see Chasing Ledges, there's piles of books on the floor, and there's piles of books and this is just the bookshelf for The Lost Dutchman. It's not the 4 or 5 other bookshelves in the house that are loaded top to bottom with books. So there's so much. The location of The Lost Dutch Mine, it's somewhere over there in a pile. I lost it. There you go. Probably. The identified body, it was found at Second Water back in 1996. You mentioned in an old video Curtis Van Dyke. He was my best friend, Curtis Van Dyke. His story needs to be told. Well, then you got to message me. You go to Facebook and you go to Messenger and say, hey, this is the guy that calls himself Arizona Squatch. And we were talking and I want to tell this story about this. And you can tell it or you can tell it to me and we can tell his story and do that. So we can do that very, very well. But you got to find a way to get a hold of me in that. And I laughed at your book, not my joke. It's okay. I laugh at my jokes. None of my kids think I'm funny. They just stare at me when I tell jokes, and I don't know what to think, So I just laugh because I think I'm pretty damn funny sometimes. I'll do that. Frank laughs to himself at jokes he doesn't even say out loud. He just sits there in the seat next to me and he starts laughing, and I'm like, what are you laughing at? Oh, something I thought of. So Frank doesn't even, it's not even shared. He just does that. So anyways, and anybody joined late, this was the coolest part of today, was a 1st and 4th Dawn's Trek tickets. That's so cool, man. So now I got to try to talk Greg into see how many spares of others there are. I got a few others from later treks and stuff, but that was kind of cool finding, I found the first one and I was thinking, oh, this is so neat. And I was thinking, oh, it's like the fourth annual. Oh, this is really cool thing. And I was going to ask him about it, and then I went through the book because I was like, okay, well, there won't be anything else. They just use this as a bookmark. And then I found that first one. So whoever it was probably went during the first treks or ended up with those. I got some trek buttons too. They used to have the pins, the little buttons, the pins. I used to have some of those. Number of people from older treks used to give them to me. And I got those, and I got a collection from someone else. So I actually got quite a few of them. So I'll have to add them up and see how many I got and dig them out. I don't know where they're all at. They're probably in cups and sitting around here and things, some of them. Anyhow, there's hello everybody, everyone. All right, I don't know what pink hands in the air mean. What does that mean?
I think it's like a waving.
Oh, is it waving? Okay.
Yeah, see those
okay,
little lines.
Yellow. Okay, so yeah, okay. Awesome find in an old book. And it always is, man, but you always will find sometimes those little notes, inscribed notes. Another thing I found was there were some old magazines, and I was digging through it. And I know not everybody will be familiar with the name, but whoever was in it wrote down a couple different things, and then Andy Sinbad. And so they were making notations about Andy Sinbad in this magazine article about the Lost Dutchman mine. So they knew Andy, so it was a local person who had the magazine back in I think it was from the late 60s, and it was talking about Andy. So the magazine article didn't, but they were making notes of things that were for Andy or something like that. So I don't know where all that passed through, who had it. There was no name label or anything on it. I think it was Treasure Magazine. Anyways, that's always cool to find those things, and then sometimes realize, oh. So people used to do that too. They used to put the little sticker inside the book. This comes from so-and-so's libraries and all this. And I like those old books because even though you might not ever find the person or meet the person, you kind of realize it was part of their personal established libraries. I don't think people have libraries like that anymore. I told my wife I caught crabs on the toilet seat at the rendezvous. If she gets a hold of you, please go along with the story. Okay. All right. Well, we need the snare drum in here so we can do rim shots occasionally. Yeah, you could do them. You could do them over there. Yeah. See, there you go. We'll bring in the snare and do that. Anyhow, so we're moving through this program pretty slowly. I don't know. It's always Friday, and it's like, I know everybody else gets it too. We try to have a good time and energize it up, and some days it's just different than others because this weekend I'm looking at what I have ahead of me because I know tomorrow we'll be breaking open the bunker and we'll be hauling stuff out, putting it in my truck, and I'll be driving the truck up the hill and I'll be unloading it, and then it'll be like 30 some odd degrees, and we're going to be filling all the troughs with water and everything for the gold panning and stuff. And so I just know it's going to be a long morning, cold, wet morning, amazing wilderness. So, yeah, but it'll be fun, and it's going to be, but yeah, well, at least we have a couple weeks before the first group. But man, that's one other thing is how cold that water is. So each and every morning. So anyhow, so we had some questions, but Mr. X, I don't know who Mr. X is. Don't remember him. Is Mr. X the treasure net guy about the guys with the spiral staircase with Kurt Painter and those guys? I'm wondering if that's who it is. Way back, maybe 2015. I don't know if you're even paying attention anymore. I just sent you a Facebook message. I'm probably in your spam bar, but whenever you get time, I had a question about when we come in March. Okay, I'll look for it. I check that stuff. When people think I don't check. Yes, Mr. X, that guy, for like 2015, 2010, something like that, they found it, and they posted some pictures and stuff. Half their pictures, and most of their pictures, and the stuff they were talking about was the staircase mine out at Burns Ranch. It had nothing to do with the spiral staircase or the Lost Dutchman. And I believe all those guys are still around. They just kind of, once their nothing happened. Nothing happened. I don't know what their deal was. They came out to the rendezvous one year. I know they came out and they were hanging around and something else. I don't know what exactly happened to them. I'm trying to remember all their names. I know Kurt Painter was the one guy, and they were all big, bad, and tough, and they were posting stuff, and they had a website. I'm trying to remember what they called themselves. They had, yeah, it was like one of those groups, let's get matching shirts, dudes. But they posted.
Is it that group right there that person just said in the chat?
What? I don't see it.
Those helmet wearing.
No, that's a different group. There's the helmet wearing guys going up the little draw is a different group. No, these guys went down in the staircase and took pictures, and they tried to pretend they were digging up the wood floor in it. And Arcana, is that them? It might be them. Yeah. And they had their own website and this whole deal. And then I went out and was like, I think they're in the wrong place. And that was like crazy. Absolutely kind of like, they're pretending to do this. And there was a whole thing with Rick Gwynn. And yeah, there was a big long thing with all of them. There was the girl with the lazy eye that Frank met her and knew her, and they were all watching each other, and they got into the alien stuff, and there was an alien skull with a bullet and all kinds. It got really, really. I remember that because I went through it, and then I started asking people about it, Rick and different people, because of the Holy Stone group, because they were part of that group. Rick wanted nothing to do with part of the other stuff, but it was so funny. That was a crazy group. You had Emery Taylor involved in that too. Emery Taylor was in that. That was the Holy Stones. They somehow got all this stuff mixed together, and those guys were in the thick of all that. It was pretty weird. Quick hello, and hey Trevor.
Hi.
There you go. I just got a copy of Trail of the Dutchman Storm. What's your favorite part? I just like the whole book. It's a better read. It's a nice book to read. I wish he would have reprinted it. I don't know if it's in public domain to reprint. I think, that would be an interesting one, is someone to take both the Trail. There's one in between too. There's Trail of the Dutchman, and there's one, the Superstition something, the Superstition Mountain. I don't know what it's called. I can't remember. There's one in the middle, but it's more of a pamphlet. It's not really just a whole book. And then he did Thunder God's Gold. And it would be neat to put the two books, though, together. I don't know. He still has a bunch of those Thunder God Golds. It would be neat to make them hardback. Just a limited run to say, you know what, I'm going to make 50. And because I might sell 25 to 50. And sell those 25 to 50 just so people have a really good bound copy. Because you really want to have, like, Thunder God's Gold. It would be nice. And Trail of the Dutchman, I think, was always in a softback. It'd be nice to have the hardback and then have the notes of authenticity in it and some of that stuff. Not really add anything to it, have the original editions. That was a thing for me, always Sim Zeeley's Lost Dutchman Mine, Thunder God's Gold, and Trail of the Dutchman. There's probably a couple more of these older books. Superstition Gold, The Dawns. Take those earliest books and then have them, so make available, say we're going to do a run of 25 and let people buy them up. And not try to make money, but try to get good editions back out there. So I don't know if Bob's into the book publishing thing, because I think he did the Goldfield book, and he did that Barry Storm book, and he's still got a pile of those, or a box of those. And I think that was it for his publishing era. Barry Storm was living in a cave above Tortilla Flat after he got kicked out of the hotel, cheating his girlfriend, the owner. Cave was a cool place to visit. He was in a number of different places back in the mountains. So the funny thing is, the one above Tortilla, Shoes found one somewhere else, and he thinks that might have been one of the ones that Storm was working out of as well, because Storm spent a lot of time up in the Hackberry Mesa area, so he was digging around and playing around there a lot too. Shoes is a good source. He got to know Storm though, or when his dealings with Storm was when Storm was pretty much just an alcoholic and pretty much done. He helped some people out at the end, like Hank Day and Dre and those guys initially, but I think by that point he also kind of went off the deep end. And there was a couple people I knew that kind of knew Storm towards the end, and they talked to me and said it was just, it was just one disaster after another with him, which I don't know if people are aware. All his stuff was, it was in the trunk of his car or trailer, and it got set on fire and burned all up, and so lost a ton of stuff. And it's just, it got kind of messy. So a lot of the people that met Storm were kind of a little bit disappointed, but then he was always a little bit of a salesman as much of anything else. And kind of like, I think he kind of built himself more into the legend than became legendary by those steps. I always say the guy, Storm brought in some really good people with him too, some really hardcore good Dutch hunter. John Burbridge was one of those. As much as people always will tout Storm, there's just a little pamphlet from John Burbridge. Burbridge spent far more time in the mountains and discovered a lot more things. He broke off from Storm because of some of Storm's bad habits and problems. But Burbridge was a serious Dutch hunter and a serious off-the-trail guy and stuff. But I think him and Storm had a big falling out. Storm had a falling out with everybody eventually, it appears. So, who knows? I didn't know the guy. It was... shit, I remember when Barry died, but yeah, I would have been a baby. So, never had a chance to run into that. The Trail of Dutchman, that's good. You got a copy of that. That's good. Now your next one you want to look for is God's Greatest Creation. Is that what it's called? Every bit of God's Greatest Creation or whatever. It's a nice book and talks about DeGrazia. It's one of the guys that packed in with DeGrazia and all that stuff. So, tiny bit of God's Creation. Yeah, that's a really good book. That's one of those books that, if you're into Dutch hunting and the Lost Dutchman Mine, it's not necessarily one you have to have. It's one of the books I like to read. I really liked that book. So it was a nice piece. I like that. Sometimes those little personal books like that. So that was a book I really, really enjoyed. I think I got a couple copies up there somewhere of it. Tiny bit of God. Tiny. Oh, now that you said it, and I was looking for it, I see it right here. See, it's right there, Trevor, next to the red book. Tiny bit of God's Creation. Well, I say it's not that fucking bad. I can read the fucking binding of the book 10 feet away. But yeah, okay. That was it. I was thinking it was down the bookshelf, but I reorganized this. That's why, and I moved it down because it's now next to Tom's books and some other books that I frequent more because I wanted it somewhere where I could get to it and read it more often. Because there's some books you reference or go to or a little bit, read a chapter or two of that you like. But I wanted to put them all together. I had everything kind of separated a little bit, and I wanted to get everybody's books and their collections together. So I did a lot of that. And then there was a few that weren't that good that I said can go in a pile somewhere. Kay Kizier, her books are kind of the 5. Is there 5 of them? There's 4 or 5. Anyways, they're in a pile now about the UFOs and the aliens and whatever else she was going on about. So I got her books set aside, so they can kind of have their own little place in their own little world with Bigfoot and other stuff later. So yes, that is another good book along with Trail of the Dutchman. So, and if you've read both, the thing that strikes you as Trail of the Dutchman is more like he's trying to tell a story. I think he had some good help. And I think with Thunder God's Gold, he had no help. He thought he had it figured out how to write a book. And it's jarring how different the two are. Yet Trail of the Dutchman was not anywhere near as successful a publication as Thunder God's Gold. And in Thunder God's Gold, I think it was that. See, that's where there's another Mr. X with the guy with the tiny feet. And that's what I was confusing that other thing was, because that was his thing of trying to make it sound like Brownie Holmes murdered Ruth and all that stuff. So they were doing conspiracies from the beginning. And I think if you wanted to find, outside of some newspaper guys back in 1931, 32, been around, 31, 32 when they were doing the newspaper stories on Ruth. The other guy that really pushed that whole Ruth was murdered story and all that crap was Storm. Storm pushed that like a mother. So it was, because it sold books. It'd make a movie. And you got to admit, then he got into the commies and the communism and all this stuff and people taking his stuff. And it's crazy. Crazy. Anyways, Greg Davis's favorite Dutchman book, Thunder God's Gold. That's the first one, and probably his favorite of all the bunch. I'm a Killer Mountains guy, so. And I think it's that your favorite's always the first one you read. Trevor's still waiting. I'm waiting for Trevor to read a whole one.
I've read all of them.
Which one's your favorite?
I don't know. I've only read a couple, but I read, the first one I ever read was Sim Zeeley's.
Sim
I
Zeeley's?
did a book report on it.
Oh, you did a book report. I don't even remember this.
It was like...
Wow.
I don't know. 6th grade?
6th grade? Wow.
So.
Okay. I don't even remember that. Did I suggest the book to you?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Imagine that. Yeah. Okay.
Sim Zeeley.
Yeah. So you started out right with one of the early ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Killer Mountains would have been better, but it was a lot. It was probably because it was a shorter book too. Didn't want to give you the bigger, thicker
I don't
book.
remember what the
So.
rationale was.
Yeah, guys, it's funny because Jack Sanfelice, Jesse Felton, people make sure Trevor gets books now. It's not like, oh, Wayne, here's your copy. Now, here, Trevor, here's your copy. Thomas Glover, they make sure Trevor gets his copy of, the books. But the thing is, I don't think he reads them. He's got all these signed editions, special editions.
Last one.
Yours
I read
aren't in
was-
here, but
Last one I read, I'm scratching my back.
No.
I think it was Ride Through Time.
Ride Through Time. Yeah, there's a bunch
like
of copies.
that
How many
one.
copies do I have of that anymore?
I don't know. I read one of those.
There has to be at least 6 or 7 copies. So, very cool. On the Not a Dutch Hunter list, Larry Hedrick, Tom Collinborn's a Dutch hunter. Tom was a Dutch hunter. So wouldn't know some real primaries. Man, Tom knew a lot, man. No, Tom was a Dutch hunter. He spent. You have to remember the Tom that you're thinking of generally in the 80s, 90s, and later was not the guy that went in the mountains with his dad in the 40s and spent all that time riding him in the 50s and 60s. Tom was doing Dutch hunting up into the 60s and 70s. He was pretty much, he thought he was going to find it, but you have to look at it. There's 2 different paths you go into. You have Clay Worst, who fully believes next week he may find it still, even though he's not going to get any further than his front door. And then Tom, who just kind of became more a historian and a spokesperson. But Tom was always interested. If someone said they found something or something, Tom was out there in a heartbeat. Do not kid yourself, Tom. When the guys from Utah were found up on Yellow Peak, he got Jesse to get down, and they went in. They rode in. I mean, this is 2010, whatever it was. Tom wasn't riding anymore. He wasn't, going out and doing a lot of hiking or anything anymore. His age and health, and yet he rode in to see that. So, no, Tom would always go in and check stuff out. So, you do not put Tom in that category. If someone says Tom Collinborn never was a Dutch hunter, they didn't know Tom. Tom was. That's why he collected so much early on. He had diaries, journals. He had so much stuff. And a lot of knowledge. His dad partnered with just about a little bit of everyone, knew everyone in the mountains, and which is what gave Tom a jump on everybody, because then Tom knew everybody, and he was introduced and met so many people and knew them when they were old timers and kind of got him in the groove and everything. Larry is a self-proclaimed, I'm not a Dutch hunter. I think Larry was interested in the mountains. I think he became him and the other Ron Lawrence took classes and with Tom, have his lectures and stuff, and met Tom and became friends. And he spent some time in the mountains with Tom, went out on the trails and stuff. But Larry had an interest in the mountains and in this history, but Larry had other interests. So he was interested differently. So, Tom, Herman Petrash. There's no Herman Petrash clues. Herman got everything from Julia and Reinhardt. That was one of those conversations we had very few of, and I wanted to always sit down and we would start to talk about it. I know more than I ever thought I would, but I was really, when I knew so much from reading books that I started to inquire with Tom is like the relationship, but Tom would go to Herman's cabin, whatever you want to call it, shack, down there in Queen Creek. He would go down there with his dad to drop off pies. So Tom met Herman and stuff, but I don't know if you find anywhere any books or anything where Tom reflects upon it. So you had to get, and it was hard to get Tom to talk about that stuff for whatever reason. I think he was just a kid, and I don't think he really was taking a lot of it in, but Tom had a really good memory about a lot of stuff. And then once in a while, he would talk about something. I always got the impression that Herman was a pretty nice guy who lived a long time, and a lot of stuff started filtering through, and the filter got bad, and there was a lot of gibberish and a lot of things coming in and out. There was so many people, hangers on and stuff. And I'm not saying anything bad about, say, Sinbad and Broderick and different people that hung around Herman before he died, Garman. But there were so many of these guys hanging on every word that Herman knew how to entertain, and just like anybody can. And I think that created a bigger problem over time, is that he was looking to kind of keep the audience. You got to keep them around, right? You got to find something. And I think when he's just sitting around there, he's just got to come up with more and more. It's kind of like the little sketch thing they found on the fireplace mantle. I think it was just something they drew and were talking about, and I don't think it was anything from Jacob Waltz or anything like that. He would, most of the stuff from the original source stuff got burned up by Reinhardt and Gottfried. They made sure that stuff was gone. And if there was anything Herman was mad about, it was probably that after the fact of realizing that stuff was gone. Your opinion, did old Jake? No, I don't think so. I don't think he was up to that anymore. Anything. There is a funny story of Bob Garman. I'll save that for a Chasing Legends. There is a funny story about Julia and Reinhardt, though, and that Bob Garman told, because Bob Garman sat around. See, Bob Garman, and it's unfortunate that if he would have lived 10 more years, or and Greg Davis didn't know Garman and really kind of liked Greg and would have loved to sit around and tell him stories. He met Herman and heard those 1,001 stories sitting around, but when you hear those 1,001 same old stories, you get pieces of other stuff too. That's important, and that's always the stuff you're looking for. You're always looking for, when you're sitting around with some old timers, stuff you've never heard before, or something they normally just don't share. And that's happened at times with Tom or a Clay or someone. It's like, Shoes is actually pretty forthcoming. Shoes will just be like out of the blue. Hey, did I ever tell you about this? I was just thinking the other day about it. And I think he just likes to tell the stories just to get them back out there. So, reminder of some of them. So, okay, where's Walter Gastler's camp is located in a thick grove of old ironwood trees, or manzanita, or name whatever you want. A side canyon, a squaw box, or a pistol canyon. At one time, a faint trail could be traced to the camp. What is your opinion on that? It kind of delves into some of that information concerning someone else, and I generally just want him to stay in check. I'm trying to figure out. I think Walter Gastler was probably a really nice gentleman. He came out. Barclay humored him a lot. Probably liked him. He was a chef. He wasn't a mountain man. He was a small guy, too. It's unfortunate he died. Tom and Corbin really didn't know who the hell he was. He just basically, hey, Germany, sprechen Sie Deutsch? Ah, yeah. Anyways, but I always kind of like that was part of those questions I would ask Bob Corbin and Tom, and they would talk about, they write stuff in books, but then I'd always ask them, what was your impression and all? And Tom was just kind of, his thing was, you know, there's so many people approach you with so many things. It was like he was trying to write a book at the time, which there was a lot of books coming out around that time. Because you got to remember, there was, Tom had been writing books. Helen Corbin had, Garmin was. There was a lot of books coming out. Yes, Dexter. And there was a lot of books coming out. And because of that, I think he wanted to tell his story. The whole thing's just kind of a bit of a mess. So I know that if I ever felt there was a good, easy way with telling what I know about Walter Gastler's story and some of the things some other people have configured into it, and find a good way to do it. Because I don't want to sit here and bash people, but when people are full of crap, they're full of crap. And that's what enters into that. And it's trying to separate what Walter Gastler, who he was, and a lot of that information, and information that some other people or person has decided to just bury up on top of this. And I would say he's a ball of crap for doing it, but whatever. But I don't want to get into that because it's hard, because then you got to try to explain yourself out of why you would dismiss this or that, and then it gets into this other stuff. And you know what, he can be where he can be and fade away. And then that Garmin story, there's a reason the Garmin story is just like a little piece of a chapter and this and that. And I don't think there's any major Garmin hunters. What year was Ward's cabin torn down? I would have known it if you would have asked me 5 minutes ago. In the immediate moment you asked me a direct question, I forget. I know Carlson was there. I know Jack San Felice was there. Jim Hatt was there, I'm pretty sure. Remember the people that were there. And I wasn't there. They went and salvaged a bunch of the wood. When they were tearing it down, they were allowed to go in, and they went in and salvaged a ton of the wood from it. And I'm trying to remember who all it was. I got pictures of it when they were tearing it down. They loaded up on a trailer. So, no sound. And that's Turbo Tyler. Turbo Tyler says there's no sound.
I hear it still.
Yeah, I don't know. Turbo Tyler, put your earbuds in. How long did Chuck Kenworthy spend in the soups? Everybody has sound. I don't know how long Chuck did until he died off and on. I know he got into it indefinitely. There was a period of time and wrote his books. He had so many other interests, and I know there's a couple of the Kenworthys. McChesney was here. He would tell you kind of a little more of the family. He kind of was a little more knew some of the family. Hey, Dallas. And probably their ins and outs, Tiger and the different family members and some of what goes on there. And then that ends up in almost like how do you pull that all apart, some of the drama involved in all that. So Kenworthy, I know, was around Charlie Boyd, Black Mountain, that area and stuff, and he had his heart and some of the stuff. I remember there was a quote in a magazine by Amy Mosier, not a magazine, a book. She wrote a book. Sorry, Amy. And her quote from Greg Davis was, Chuck Kenworthy was the only person who ever pulled a significant amount of gold out of the Superstitions. So I took that to Greg, and I asked him about it. Greg said, I never said that. And I said, okay. So there you go. So that being said and done, Chuck Kenworthy, but the cabin torn down had to be, God, I remember it too. Because I remember when we found out they did it too. Man, that's kind of weird because, it's like one of those weird things that I would probably even tell you the month and what weekend it was. And I'm trying to remember something, attach something else to it. But I know I saw all the pictures and all. I remember when they did it, and I remember when they were talking about it. And I was kind of like, oh, crap, I would have loved to have been out there because I have timber from the Silver King, and I have a brick from Julia's store. I have little pieces of things, just like a memento. Don't try to collect much, but I always try to get something. I actually have part of the part of Herman's cabin too. A piece of the roof or the wall. I think it was the roof. A piece of the roof of Herman's cabin when that got torn down. So I have pieces of these things just so, I have them. And so I kind of kept them for whatever reason. They just look like pieces of junk. It's a brick. It's a piece of burnt timber out of the Silver King. And it's some rusty tin, but oh well. I think the other thing is one of the pipes for his stove from Herman's cabin. Don't know what else. I got a lot of kind of strange things. It's just I'll find, one of those things, and then I'll just take it home, and then I put them there. And probably Trevor only remembers because I remind him once in a while, you know where that's from? But he probably would have no clue. In fact, there's a number of places, old mining camps and stuff, I've picked up rocks or bricks, and then when I built things around the house and the back patio and stuff, I'll use those bricks and rocks in it. So there's always things come from other places and become incorporated in things. So there you go. A lot of those things around here. But yeah, it's just, I guess there's some neat stuff like that. It kind of gets neat. But to me, it was always just like, there's not going to be any remnant of it. And when you go out and take a few pictures, there was a piece just laying off to the side under a tree. It was like, it's just trash at this point. Let's just pick it up. And, oh, well, I'll keep this little piece here and get rid of some of the other pieces. But to me, it was like, nice to have the memento at the same time pick up the trash, because eventually that's all it is when these buildings are gone and stuff. There we go on that. Ward's cabin, man. I should know that. Should have it. And I just feel like it's circulating in there and it's not popping out. Okay. And the Gastler and the Thick Grove. Yes, I've heard that. I can tell you for a fact that two of the spots that it supposedly was in, one, the person goes, oh yeah, I went down in there and, it was really tough, and he will give you a long length and discussion of it, and there was stuff and all the stupid crap. And then two other people that I trust far more, so they went down through there and could not find any sort of sign, could get nowhere near where that place was. It wasn't just grown over, just there never was anything existing. And so there's two variations of stories. Two of the people I think anybody here could trust and would consider reliable sources. That made the other person kind of seem a little phony. And then it became, we had multiple it became all this stupid crap. And that's what I mean, is you end up in that. Sometimes people put stuff out there, and one of the problems with forums and stuff, because back in the day, everybody called everybody on everybody's shit. And it got uncomfortable at times because people kind of said things, kind of got rough, and there would be little feuds. And of course, if people are typing or chatting, they just unleash so much more. So now they have this thing that if you almost disagree with someone, it's got to be done so politely in such a weird way, that way you don't get banned or anything happens. And it's protected the bullshit artists, is what it basically did in the end. And I kind of disagree with it, because you should be able to call someone out on stuff without, it's like, oh, well, it's just, it was just like the guy we ran into that does a lot of permitting with the Forestry Service. And he convinced a production company that he was working with, he knew me and Frank. And I'm sitting there at a table with him. And he said, well, Wayne just went off to the bathroom, but here's Frank. And I'm like, oh, shit, you didn't even watch the frickin' TV show and get us right. I've never met you in my life. But he had completely convinced them that he knew us and worked with us before and all this different stuff. And it was just like, and then after that, he wanted to charge them to utilize the Don's camp for some filming. And I'm like, me and Frank are Dons. We'll get you in there. We'll let them know. We'll let you go down and do some, if you want to do a little B-roll or something, or just we could have lunch down there. And then he had a hissy fit. He's like, well, I'm a Don too. And then he showed up 6 months later trying to get himself in the Dons. And I said, no. Which the Dons actually, technically, the Dons are not to be used for any of your own personal business. So he really didn't qualify anyways, because he was going to use it to use the camp and stuff. But it's just, but there's people like that. That kind of sucks, man. Why do so many people lie about finding the lost Dutchman? Tell me. I don't know. Tom and I I've had discussions, not the lie thing, but why people get so. Because there's people out there that are absolutely found absolutely nothing, but they believe in something that's not really there. And I'm fascinated by it. You can go and literally, you could dig up the side of the mountain and prove to them there's nothing there, and they tell you just missed it. And Tom and I would talk about it. Tom wasn't as much a big talker about that. Tom's, I don't know, but Clay will talk about the psychology about it. Shoes is a lot like Tom. Shoes will be dreamers just got to dream. Don't worry about it. Just let them dream. And I always feel like, to some degree, some people get it where it's harmful to them, to their life, because they almost become self-absorbed into this fantasy world. And they're out there, and their whole life, soul, everything about it, there's an imaginary person literally born of that. I mean, I'm still Wayne Tuttle. I still get up and go to work, and I have my job, and there's just a normalcy about everything. Some of these people, there's no normalcy whatsoever. Their name, where they're from, eventually everything becomes like a piece of fiction. And that's even worse than this. When you're talking about that, it even gets even further out there. They literally become this lost Dutch hunter person that they're not. I mean, even down to their names change, and it just is kind of crazy. Barry Storm's a good example. I don't know what you're saying, but Barry Storm's another one. You know, it is kind of weird because he became Barry Storm, and that's not who he was. And that to me is kind of like, man, you know, you lost yourself in it. I'm still Wayne Tuttle. I still play guitar. I still did a lot of other things in my life. I don't want to jettison everything else. Tom Collenborn started that way with James Colton as being an author of stuff and calling himself James Colton. But then he became Tom Collenborn. He just became Tom again. But people can get down that route, crazy stuff. Had a prime suspect as mine who was gunning for him. Have you done some thinking and come up with a name? It was to him, he wanted it to be Brownie Holmes. He wanted it to be Brownie. That was the guy with the small feet and everything. He really wanted to pin that on Brownie Holmes and stuff. He didn't like Holmes because Brownie Holmes wouldn't tell him certain information. Suppose he's Dick Holmes. And so he tried to trash Brownie somehow. That's what I always heard. That was what that was about. And I don't think anybody was really. I think Storm shot at more people than people shot at him. And I think it was just for target practice. Storm. Like I said, he was a bit of a loose cannon. At some point, someone has found the real one, or at least found some incredible adventure. And there's always good adventures. This is because it gets people excited off their couch. Yeah, but get people excited off their couch in a good way. So going out in the mountains and spending time and kind of discovering things and stuff like that. The bigger problem is there are people that never leave their couch and literally become embroiled and wrapped in this. And I know some people that people would be surprised to find out how little time they actually spent in the mountains, how little they actually really know. But from books and the publications and the forums, they can come and just pick up so much information, and they can gain an audience of people that don't know any better. And as those people think about it, as you get into it and acquire more knowledge, you're acquiring knowledge from this person that is giving out BS. So you don't know it's BS, you just know that's what that person's giving you. And that becomes problematic, which is why you notice in Chasing Legends, I'll tell you sources on a lot of material and show you the books or tell you where the source material came in the interviews and stuff. I always wanted to do it differently like that because I thought that was so problematic. I always thought it was important to dig down where stuff came from and credit people for stuff. I think Tom deserves a lot of credit because he found a lot of stuff and came up with a lot of that. Okay. It's the master map of Charlie Boy American or Native. It's Native American. And Tom even said in his lifetime, from his dad's time and his time, there was symbols added to it. I've heard that about a lot of places, that there were certain things. I think even on Blacktop, some of the symbols up there, stuff were added to it over time. And so it's disappointing on some of that kind of stuff. One of the biggest problems is even there's people in the mountains that know their shit, and they've been completely become enamored or bought in to these other guys' stuff. And it's so hard to watch sometimes because you're sitting there. It's like, it's like, wow, you know. I don't know what to say. I always try to stay out of a lot of it to some degree, because anybody can write a book, anybody can have an opinion and all that stuff. But when they cause hurt or harm to other people, and you'll see when it really bothers me is when they start talking about someone I knew and something I know is not true. And that's when things change, and then we try to shut them down. And we will shut people down over that purposely. Just be mean, just to say, you know what, don't besmirch that person's reputation with lies you're telling. You need to go back and sit on your porch and close your door and get out of the way. In the late 70s, I heard they were drilling for the bridges on Apache Road, and they're running into voids. Yeah, well, yeah, they would, because it's all volcanic activity. So the caldera is there. There's freaking tunnels and all kinds of stuff, and opens and voids all through those mountains. And if you spent enough time out there, you would start running into those. You find a crawl space, and you're like, what the hell's this? There's lava tubes and caves, and that whole place is just full of stuff because of the calderas and the volcanoes and the lava and stuff. So I would fully believe that there's all kinds of stuff in underground waterways and stuff. When someone tells me a story like there was a hole and we found this crack and we dropped a rock and I could hear it hit water and stuff, what do you think that was? It was probably one of those voids, and it's got water down in it and stuff. But no, that's a very realistic thing because we've run into it many times in the mountains. And there's not big, huge caverns with stalagmites and treasure in them and stuff. But when you find them, they're interesting. They're usually full of bats and occasionally rattlesnakes, because rattlesnakes like the bats, the baby bats that fall down and die. They like to go in there. So there's always rattlesnakes and spiders. Sometimes bees. The bees like the area too because of the bats and the moisture and everything else. Then the bees usually are somewhere in the neighborhood in the area of it too. So you usually end up with bees, bats, rattlesnakes, and scorpions and spiders. There you go. Everything you'd want to crawl down in a hole with, which I've done, and it sucks. Dave and I were out at the museum, the Pinnacle, over at the building, Bulldog Mine. Okay. Looked a hell of a lot like a profile map and schedule, all that. That's what Shoes believes. So going to Four Peaks tomorrow, buddy. Good deal. Bats are leather children of the cave. Leather chickens of the cave. Okay. I wouldn't eat a bat, I'll tell you that. Thanks. I think we've covered a lot of ground. Yeah, then that's one of those stories I've stayed out of was jeez. I forget the name after all that. Not Garmin. Gastler. I stay out of the Gastler stories, and I haven't never touched much on Gastler because of so much disinformation. Because the problem is in the disinformation and the know-it-alls and this and that. And there's like half a dozen people out there that knew Walter Gastler, and all the stuff that came out. And then after I talked to Bob Corbin and Tom Collenborn and a couple other people, and kind of pulled things apart a bit, I was like, you know what? It's so hard to get into it because you got to get in an argument with people about what they think is real or true because of stuff that people have filtered out there and we're just thrown out there, and you don't want to get into that. It's just, Walter Gastler went up there. He had mines and claims. Even after he died, some of those claims were still active. But those claims were all over. They love to talk Peters Mesa, but the one that he was active at, and an important one, was on Bluff Springs Mountain. He even had one on the main mountain. So it's just kind of like weird. Like I said, is, the Peter Mesa guys. So if you want a storyteller, always find a Peters Mesa guy. They got some good stories. Because you know why? They don't find squat. They just sit up there and make up stories. Oh, I'm too much. I just pissed off all the Peters Mesa guys. Who cares? What canyon do you think Waltz intended to guide Julian Company but died before? Could have been... See, that's what's weird to me is They came in, and because that was the thing I always wanted to talk to Tom, I would have loved to meet Bob Garman, because what you'd want to know from Herman is what made you guys go those directions. Was it you thought that's what he meant? Or is it, did you have anything clear? Well, how did you end up at Hogs Canyon? And you guys end up going around and going out to Marsh Valley. How do you guys end up in these different directions? How come you guys never ended up going around the south end and that? What was it? And I think the solution to all that would be Jim Bark's, not that Bark notes what's written, but what Jim Bark's, names are just not catching me today. And I know his name. His name's John, but I can't remember his last name. Anyways, Jim Bark's nephew, John. I know a member of the family, and I'm trying to think of his last name too. So I get. Anyways, they have those notes and information, and it could reveal it, because that's the big thing. Is like, what did he actually tell them? What information did Bark and Ely have from them? What did they actually tell them? What were they look? They weren't familiar with the mountains. Obviously, Jim Bark was more familiar, and he had the cowboys, and he owned the area, so he would have been far more familiar with the area. So what was it, that we're looking for? Okay, how do you feel about the Lost Dutch Canyon? I like Lost Dutch Canyon and Lost Dutch Spring. I've always... Spangler. Thank you, Spangler. I don't know why I forgot Spangler. Anyways, Lost Dutch Canyon is extremely interesting. One of the last mining claims that Herman and Reinhardt made was back in Fish Creek, just south of Lost Dutch Canyon, not very far. It's an interesting hidey hole for a couple people. I've always found it really interesting. And the best part of it is, I don't know how it got its name. Charlie Boy's from a rancher up there. Peters Mesa's from a rancher called Peters, not the Petrashes. Phil Labarge. Most of the stuff in there was named after ranchers and people like that. Iron Mountain is after a rancher named Irian. They're all named after like colors and ranchers and people who were in there in the early turn of the century. Lost Dutch Canyon's an odd one, because it's just like, how come right in the middle of all this? I mean, let's face it, Pauline Weaver, Weaver's Needle. It's an odd one. It's like, why was it named that? And when I found the claim papers for Reinhardt and Herman, I was kind of surprised at it too, as they were that far. That was completely out of their area. I mean, Herman's area was Needle Canyon, Labarge, and Bluff Springs. That was his area for many, many years, and Reinhardt's. No matter what anybody tells you, because I've seen the documents and the proof. But the fact that they were out there, something drove them out there. I always found it interesting, but I could never find the claim. Never specific claim out there. So that was but you got to be careful out there, because there's a lot of people who want to stay off the grid that hide back in that area. So the lady at the board house who sold flour to the Indians for gold. Does anyone know where she sold the gold? No, she just said she gave him a little gold. I think it was Cavaness's wife, right? Matt Cavanass, after they were divorced, she was staying at the board house, and they would come by, and she sold flour to the Indians. That's who I think we're speaking of, because I think it was his wife. We're not confusing it with anything else. Yeah, so... The Indian, well, and anybody there, you got to think 150 years ago how much gold was in those mountains, how 40, 130, 120. But once you get after the turn of the century, anything surface disappeared more and more. There was, as the surface and mines, there's a lot of mines in the superstitions that have been worked out. By Choya Tank, there's one. I mean, a lot of these mines had some gold in them. And there was more placer gold, and you would find more loose gold possibly in the mountains, because they still had gold in them, and gold would wash out. Now things have changed, and whether people wanted to say, I found, because the thing is, everybody wants to find the Lost Dutchman. So if a guy found, it's like Frank and Woody. If they get $20,000 worth of gold out of Hewitt, they didn't say they found the lost Dutchman. They got $20,000. Well, that's $20,000 of pocket gold through Hewitt that's gone, is not there. So it was still there. So just look at those increments as that stuff disappears. The hundreds of thousands of millions of years it takes that stuff to move or go through the earth and surface. So there you go. Have you been to Baghdad? Yes. I was. It was the Apache stronghold in one of the worst places. It's still one of the worst. Well, it's out in the middle of nowhere, Baghdad. Yeah. I don't know. The Apache stronghold, Coast Chief stronghold. That is a beautiful place. We went down there. That was beautiful, wasn't it, Trevor? Mm-hmm. That was a very pretty place. I could see why Coach Chiefs picked it. One, strategically, but two, water, the trees, the cover, just everything, the food sources he was probably getting out of there. Nobody's going to chase you up in there and be able to catch you. You're going to finish them off. I think we're about done, aren't we? I don't even know what time it is. Oh, it's way over time. Man,
I did plug in my laptop.
Okay. Damn. Well, we had a good time. It's time to say goodbye till our next time. Next rendezvous, we should go look for the elusive lizard man. Yeah, well, what we'll do is we'll bring some bacon and go, you lizard, 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 you lizard, lizard, lizard. There we go. That's how we'll find the lizard man. The Holmes manuscript reads like a script for a Hollywood movie. What's your opinion? Yeah, exactly. You about named it. Yeah, boom is right. And slammed the door on that one. Yeah, I think it was written with a ghostwriter with Brownie, and it was turned into something that it shouldn't have been. I think he could have just wrote down just notes and stuff, and it would have much been better as a journal or something. But yeah, I don't even know what to believe. I believe the stuff that happened later in his life, those stories, I think are closer to the truth than anything in the first half of that book. But thank you, Thomas Glover, for pulling that manuscript together and publishing it so we can all grab a hold of it. Cheers, Wayne and crew. See you at Miner's Needle. And have a great weekend. Thanks, Wayne and Trevor. Well, don't thank Trevor too much. He just sat over there doing, working on some stuff on his laptop, and then I had to get his attention all the time. He's, only barely here. I think February is when I'll be available to hike. The Lost Mine is the top of Music Mountain. Good luck getting up there. I've been up there. You can get up there. Another live. Another one in the books. Another one in the bag. And I don't have dinner coming for anytime soon. But it is what it is. See everybody later. Thank you. We will hike then. Okay. Everybody's kind of working around. But anybody wants to come out, we might catch you at the Gold Show tomorrow, Saturday in the afternoon. And then, like I said, I'll keep you updated on everything else happening and stuff. Thank you, everybody. It was a wonderful time. I went way over. I guess I was having a good time. Shit, a half hour in, I was saying, this is dragging. And an hour later, I had to catch myself that I got to go. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. And we will catch you around on the next side, on the other side. So, there's no way to finish. I got to write a little script. That's what I got to do. Every week I talk about it. I got to come up with a closing for this thing. But in lieu of a closing, thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Music Mountain is pink quartz, free mill, Goldwood crush. Yeah, well, just get a burro. There you go. That's how we close it out. Get a burro. Take a walk. All right. Thank you, everybody. Catch you around the next time. Have a great weekend. Have a great week. And I'm out of here.